Many people doubt who they are, doubt that we are the light of the world, doubt that we are the ones that we've been waiting for. Many people doubt that we are the ones who can bring healing to this world, and yet Jesus taught us to pray, "Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Jesus would not teach us to pray that if Jesus did not believe we could do it. Jesus would not call us the light of the world if Jesus did not believe that's who we really are. Do we believe who we really are? Or have we forgotten? Have you ever seen that movie, Total Recall? Now, there was a remake of it, and then there's an older one with Arnold Schwarzenegger. In either case, these were people who had forgotten who they were. They were getting up every day and living their life and doing their work and going through the motions, but somehow it felt very empty. They knew that they were created for more. They knew that they were created to be something more. Have you ever sensed that? Have you ever felt that? Do you know who you are? Do you know your magnificence? Or are you just believing the programming of what you've been told? Some of you may have seen The Matrix. How many people here have ever seen The Matrix? And so they were living this life, and he was given a choice. You can take the blue pill or the red pill. You can decide whether or not you want to wake up or stay asleep. Which do you prefer? Awake? And it's a choice. It is a choice. You are welcome to stay asleep. You may do that, but it's a choice. I'm looking today at the topic, love, seeing with the eyes of God. If we do not accept who we are, then we won't be able to see with the eyes of God, because we'll always envision God as being out here, separate from us. Those scriptures that Reverend Margie read from the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam talk about what good does it do you if you go to the temple and worship, but don't recognize that every single person you see is the temple. Every single person you interact with is the presence of God. What good does it do if we just bow our heads and fold our hands, but do not see the presence of God in one another? In that passage, God is saying, it's useless. Jesus in the Christian scriptures says that when you have seen one who is naked and have clothed them, when you see one who is hungry and you have fed them, when you see one who is a stranger, and that Greek word is xeno. Have you ever heard of xenophobia? That's directly from the Greek. Xeno means immigrant. Someone with a different faith, a different ethnicity. Phobia means fear. Jesus said, when you have entertained the immigrant, when you have entertained the person of a different faith, when you have entertained the person of a different race, you have done it unto me. And then he goes on to say, when you haven't done this to the immigrant, to the stranger, to the person of different ethnicity, different religion, you have not done it unto me. You think Jesus taught oneness? Some people think that Jesus taught that we are somehow to be separate. Jesus absolutely taught oneness, that presence of God is living in each one of us. But how do we see it? I'm amazed. Every morning I get up and I check my glasses. And I see all this stuff on my glasses that was on there from the night before. Why didn't I notice it the night before? I got used to it. More and more stuff accumulated on the glasses, and I just got used to it. And then I clean them, and all of a sudden, everything's so much brighter. Like, oh, the lights came on. Living in the material condition as we do, our eyes get covered over, and we don't see rightly. We don't see people as the divine that you are. Eric Butterworth, in his writings, author, well-known unity minister, said, "It is not our job to make things right, but to see things rightly." Now, I believe that it's both. I believe that there are things we need to address in our world. Peace, unity, healing, forgiveness. I believe there are things we need to address in our society. But Eric Butterworth talks about seeing rightly. How do you see things? Do you see from the eyes of God? I'm going to give you 3 tips on seeing from the eyes of God. They all start with the letter C. The first one is coherence. Coherence. How many people here have studied heart math? A few of you have. Great. Some of you have not heard about it. Heart math. For example, when there have been major events that have happened on our planet, there are places on different areas of the planet. These are random number machines. They run random numbers, and on certain high events in the consciousness of humanity, the numbers start to match and align, and there is coherence in the human consciousness. Did you know that? One of those was when Princess Diana died. There suddenly were different results that showed up on these random number machines. Another one was on 9/11. And here's the tricky thing. If you can wrap your brain around this, that coherence and that unification of human consciousness started occurring about 4 hours before 9/11 occurred. Think of the implications of that. We know a lot more than we think we know. Our consciousness is much greater than we think. There are practices that are taught in heart math that are included in the quantum living process that we encourage people to engage in. The quantum living process, throughout that, Reverend Margie is one of the coaches, Dr. Thomas Gallagher, Mary Paulson, Reverend Levitt Thomas, and soon to be Leslie Ellenson. These are coaches within our community who teach the quantum living process. And throughout, interspersed, integrated in that whole process, is coming into coherence. Let's do it briefly. I encourage you to just put your hand on your heart, wherever your heart is, and I hope you have one. You online, please do this as well. And just take some deep breath, breathing into that, visualizing the air going in and out through your heart space. And feel that presence of peace, that presence of oneness, that presence of God, whatever it is for you, feel that presence. As you breathe in and out slowly through your heart. Now just gently bring your attention back here. I can feel the difference in the room, and I can feel the difference in myself. And it only took a few seconds. That is a heart math coherence exercise to help us to become coherent. That is, in harmony, in unity, in oneness. And you can tell when things are in coherence or when they are incoherent. You can tell when people are coming from a place of coherence because their behavior and their speech is above the line. They're open, they're curious, they are seeking connection and learning. They're not trying to be right. When we go below the line, we insist on being right. We insist others are wrong. You see it in our world, don't you? Have you been watching any of the political speeches? Some of you turn it off. I just heard that. Our political system right now is thriving on incoherence, is thriving on division and making others wrong. It's very interesting. How do you stay in coherence with all the stuff that's going on in our political landscape? Some of you know I'm on the governing board for the Unity Movement. I'm in my 8th year. I've been on the board probably twice as long as the next longest person on the board. I've seen a lot of stuff. I've seen some stuff. Any of you ever been on a board? And we have some wonderful candidates who are saying yes and stepping up to board service. And I give thanks that this board has done a lot of work to be in coherence, to be in unity, to come from a place of spirit. But not all boards are like that. Did you know that? Did you know that even in churches, sometimes people can get into fights? Did you know that? Yeah, you didn't know that, right? I mean, how could that be? They teach oneness. They teach there's only one power and one presence. You know, living as me and as the universe, God, the good omnipotence. And yet, when it comes down to push and shove, there are those in our movement who think there are exceptions to that. That there can be someone and something else against us. That there's surely something more than just one power. Because look at all the evidence of things that are happening. And so sometimes people get in anger, wanting to be right, control, predicting control. Have you ever done that? Be honest. Everyone raise your hand who's ever done that. Come on, come on, come on. Anyway. I was standing in the line at the airport, and really the line was moving right along. And there was someone behind me. I don't know, I was just a little anxious, wanting to make sure I got through security in time to get to my flight. And there was someone behind me who had this bright and brilliant smile. And they said, the line is shorter than it looks. I accepted that. I heard it as the voice of God speaking to me. This line, and I started saying it loudly in the line as an affirmation. This line is shorter than it looks. And I meant it. I could feel it. And other people are like, oh. I wanted to share the light. And I thanked her for the reminder. So I was just getting into more and more coherence. The longer the line waited, I was just having a great time, and I was interacting with this woman and her husband. But as the time went on, she started getting grumpy. She started doubting her own words. And then I did an affirmation with her. She wasn't quite as receptive as I had been. What causes you to forget that there's only one power and presence? What causes you to forget to have amnesia that you are this presence of God in action? What is the dirt that gets on your lenses that causes you to think in terms of separation? That there's someone or something against me, and I got to get them before they get me. It's a wake-up call. When we go into coherence, and every day, throughout the day, different times, I'm meditating, I'm chanting, I'm wanting to really go into that presence so that I'm in coherence. When I do that, I can begin to see with the eyes of God. Let me give you an example. Okay, I was on the mainland. I was with my mom. I don't know, Mom, if you're able to watch today or not, but I wanted to be there and help with some things and some appointments and some things we needed to address, and just to be with her, and then with son and daughter and grandkids, and And then I was invited to go to Kauai for an all expenses paid interfaith retreat, Interfaith Hawaii, to go to Princeville in Kauai at the Wyndham Resort. I mean, I'm in the interfaith, and when they're offering this resort all paid for and food all paid for, and I use my Hawaiian miles to get there, I'm like, yeah, I'm in. Wow, deep relationships formed, deep connections that will last the rest of my life. It was a phenomenal retreat. At one time, we had a very experienced meditator and one who leads in meditation. She's from, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Brahma Kumaris. She's from the Brahma Kumaris. And so she was leading this 6:30 in the morning meditation. And we were going deep. She was helping us to go into coherence. She was helping us to go into that place that we really are, the presence of God, and knowing the presence of God living as us. At about 6:45, about 15 minutes into the meditation, a young mother with her daughter, probably about 2 years old, walked in to our area. We were in a common area. Most of the time we had it to ourselves, but others could walk in. And I thought, how is a 2-year-old going to respond to a group of people holding meditation, holding coherence? She was so quiet, and she just stared at us. And I could see her go into coherence. It has an effect on the entire field. You can change the field that you're in. But something else happened as I was in that deep state of coherence. I saw their bodies, but I didn't really see a mother in her 20s and a 2-year-old girl. I saw the eternal spirit soul living as each of them. I saw them as ageless, without birth, without death. I actually saw it, not just intellectually. I actually saw it. And more I'm having this experience whether it's with animals, with people, of seeing the eternal spirit soul that we are. That comes from a place of coherence. And when I see people as they are, when I see people as the eternal spirit soul, my response is love. Because I am seeing as God sees. I am seeing through the eyes of God. Have you ever experienced this? Some of you haven't, and that's all right. Open yourself to that. Open yourself to see God in the stranger, in the person that is houseless, in the person that may be the drug addict, in the roommate or neighbor that lives on the floor above you, that likes to stomp on the floor at 1 in the morning. See, little autobiographical thing. See the presence of God living as them. And when you can do that, I guarantee you, you will see the presence of God looking back upon itself when you look in the mirror. It will transform the way you see yourself. And you will not only be open to loving others, but you will really love yourself in a deep and profound way. So the first C is coherence. The second C is community. When we learn to see through these eyes of coherence, learn to see through the eyes of God, we begin to develop community because we recognize it's only God. When I look at you, I'm only looking at God. When I hear the rooster, I'm only hearing God. When I look at the palms, I'm only seeing God. When you see life from that vantage point, you realize that this life is so much more than you imagined. That you are living and swimming and having your being in the very presence of God as the presence of God. And that transforms your life. You up-level to a whole new level of coherence and community. And then the third C, compassion. It will be natural to have compassion. I'm going to step into something that I don't know if it will rub anybody wrong or not, but it was something that just happened last night. I live close by, and I walked down here to Queen Kapiolani Gardens. There's some gardens on the other side of the street, just down the street, and Queen Kapiolani Gardens. And I was meditating, I was praying, I was looking at the beautiful foliage. I was watching a family. There was a big hen and probably about 8 chicks. And I didn't just see chickens. They used to annoy me. I didn't just see chickens. I saw the eternal spirit soul living as each one of them. I really saw it, not just intellectual. So I was leaving the park after my time of meditation, and a group of about 5 boys, I would guess about 14 years old, showed up. I heard this clapping. And they were rounding up these chickens. And they were grabbing them. And I think they were grabbing the roosters. And it dawned on me later it might be for cockfights. And I know that's a thing on the island, but it just hurt my heart. Because I saw the eternal spirit soul in these animals. And we're going to gather them up to fight. And I said something to them. You know, I was praying, oh, give me the words, give me the words. What am I going to say? What am I going to say? And I walk up and I just start talking. I said, please do not harass these chickens. Their response was, we're not harassing them, we're taking care of them. I realized, oh, and another woman showed up, said the same thing. They gave the same response. Now, whatever you think of cockfighting and how we treat animals, what I'm talking about here is that we can get to the place where we see the presence of God everywhere. We are seeing through the eyes of God. And when we do so, we really come to it from a place of love. And it changes our lives. It changes things radically. And that's what I'm calling us to. I'm calling us to see through the eyes of God and to love radically. Love doesn't mean always agreeing with people. Sometimes love needs to be tough. But I'm saying, see through the eyes of God. See others as they really are. Be open to see the presence of God in others. Be open to see the presence of God in yourself. Go in the times of coherence so that you can really see that presence of God. I go back to what Jesus said. When you have done it unto one of the least of these, you have done it unto me. But how can we respond in a truly loving way unless we're coming from that place of love, the presence of God that we are? We are here to be love. We are here to be light. We are here to be the presence of God. Do not sell yourself short. Thank you. I invite you to take a deep breath. And again, if you wish, place your hand over your heart. And as you breathe in and through your heart and go into coherence, we hold all of our world and its inhabitants in this place of love. Israeli, Palestinian, Ukrainian, Russian, Muslim, Jew, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian. See that we are only one presence. We are one power as we go into the silence. And so we live, move, and have our being in this oneness. Remember that the words that Jesus taught us to pray were not in vain. That we are here to bring heaven to earth. And so it is. Amen.